The night Amara walked into room 1907, she thought she was only delivering fresh towels. She did not know she was walking into the kind of secret that ruins engagements, exposes family lies, and ties a poor girl's future to one of the most feared billionaires in Lagos. And when that same billionaire later discovered what she had been hiding from him, his entire world nearly collapsed. Amara had learned long ago that poverty does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it comes quietly. It sits beside your hospital bed. It follows you home. It stares at unpaid bills and dares you to dream anyway. By 24, she was working double shifts as a maid in a luxury hotel while trying to keep her younger brother Toby alive. Toby needed heart surgery, and every doctor said the same thing. If she could not raise the money fast, she would lose him. That night, the hotel was hosting one of the biggest private events of the year. Politicians, celebrities, oil executives, socialites, everybody who mattered had gathered under one roof. Amara was supposed to stay in the laundry section, but her supervisor rushed in, shoved fresh towels into her arms, and told her to take them to the penthouse immediately. The guest in that suite was Kade Bassey, the cold billionaire founder of Bassey Global, a man so rich and powerful that people lowered their voices when they said his name. The other staff warned her not to look him in the eye, not to speak unless spoken to, and definitely not to make a mistake. According to them, Kade did not shout. He did something worse. He ended people's lives with a sentence. Amara knocked. No answer. She knocked again. This time, the door opened halfway. Music was playing low inside. Expensive cologne mixed with whiskey hung in the air. And Kade stood there, looking like a man who had spent years teaching the whole world not to get close. His tie was loose. The top buttons of his shirt were open, and anger sat on his face like it had been carved there. Amara tried to leave the towels and go, but before she could step back, a woman's voice sounded from inside the suite. It was soft, flirtatious, manipulative. Kade turned, and that was when Amara saw it. On the table were documents, a velvet ring box, and photos. The woman coming out of the inner room was Vanessa, the socialite everyone believed Kade was about to marry. But Vanessa was not alone. Standing behind her was Kade's cousin Desmond, the man who had been helping him manage a major merger. The room went silent. Vanessa froze. Desmond froze. And Kade looked at them the way a storm looks at a city before it breaks. In less than 10 seconds, Amara realized she had entered the middle of a betrayal. Vanessa was not loyal. Desmond was not family. And Kade, the man everybody feared, was suddenly a man being humiliated in his own room. Vanessa tried to explain, but Kade did not raise his voice. He just asked one question. How long? That question was more frightening than shouting. Desmond started talking about misunderstandings. Vanessa started crying. And Kade, instead of exploding, laughed once. It was the kind of laugh that made Amara wish she had never entered the room. Then Vanessa did something shameless. She pointed at Amara and said, maybe she should mind her business, because girls like her were probably used to seeing rich men with different women. It was cruel, classist, and unnecessary. Amara should have stayed silent. That would have been the safe thing. But exhaustion, hunger, fear for her brother, and the ugliness of the moment pushed something inside her. She looked Vanessa in the eye and said, betrayal does not become less dirty because expensive perfume is in the room. The room went dead. Vanessa slapped Amara. Before Amara could recover, Kade stepped forward, grabbed Vanessa's wrist, and told both her and Desmond to get out before security dragged them out. They left with their pride in pieces. When the door shut, Amara realized she was now alone with a billionaire whose life had just split open in front of her. She apologized and turned to go, but Kade asked her to stop. He poured another drink, stared at the ring box on the table, and asked her if she believed everyone wanted something from him. Amara said she did not know him. Kade said, exactly. That was the problem. No one knew him, but everyone wanted a piece of him. Then his eyes fell on the crumpled hospital estimate sticking out of her apron pocket. He asked what it was. Amara tried to hide it, but he took one look and understood. She needed money, a lot of it. What happened next changed everything. Kade offered her a deal. Not romance, not love, a transaction. He needed a woman to accompany him to a high-level family dinner the next evening. His grandmother had been pressuring him to announce his engagement to Vanessa in public. After tonight's betrayal, he wanted Vanessa embarrassed and his family silenced. He would pay Amara enough to cover her brother's surgery if she played the role of his date for one night and kept what she saw secret forever. Amara hated the offer, not because of the money, because she knew what it meant. In his eyes, she was not a person. She was an answer to an inconvenience. But Toby's face flashed in her mind. She thought of the hospital countdown. She thought of the way poor people are always forced to choose between dignity and survival. And with a shaking voice, she said yes. The next evening, Kade transformed her world in ways she had never imagined. A stylist came, a car came, diamonds came, and for the first time in years, Amara looked in a mirror and saw not a tired maid, but a woman who could make a room stop breathing. At the dinner, every eye followed her. Rich women smiled with poison. Men pretended not to stare. Kade introduced her simply as Amara. That should have been enough, but Kade's grandmother, Mama Kade, saw far more than beauty. She watched Amara help an elderly waiter who was about to drop a tray. She watched her greet domestic staff with respect. She watched her remain calm while others tried to shame her. And old women who have seen too much can recognize character faster than anyone. The dinner turned ugly when Vanessa arrived uninvited and accused Amara of being paid entertainment. Desmond joined in, hoping to humiliate Kade publicly. But instead of backing away, Amara calmly asked Vanessa if she had come to reclaim a ring or a man who had already seen her true face. The entire table exploded. Vanessa screamed. Desmond threatened legal trouble. Mama Kade banged her walking stick and declared that any woman who could stand in that fire without trembling had more spine than half the Bassey bloodline. Later that night, after the drama, Kade and Amara drove back in silence. The tension between them had changed. Somewhere between the insult, the performance, and the way she defended herself, Kade had stopped seeing her as disposable. But he was still angry, still wounded, still proud. And pride makes complicated men dangerous. At the penthouse, he transferred the money for Toby's surgery, exactly as promised. Amara should have left immediately. She intended to, but when Kade quietly asked if she ever got tired of being strong, she turned and saw not the billionaire from magazine covers, but a lonely man bleeding where nobody could see. One conversation became two became confession, and in a night full of raw honesty, walls came down that neither of them had planned to lower. By morning, Amara was gone. She paid for Toby's surgery, resigned from the hotel, and promised herself she would never go near Kade Bassey again. Men like him did not belong in the same life as women like her. The problem was that life did not ask for permission. Weeks later, Toby's surgery was successful, but recovery was expensive. Amara started searching for office work, using the accounting degree she had nearly forgotten she owned. After dozens of rejections, she finally got an interview for a junior compliance role at Bassey Global Foundation. She nearly walked away when she saw the company name. But she needed the job, and she told herself a company that big had thousands of employees. She might never even see him. She was wrong. On her first day, Kade walked into the induction room. The entire hall stood. Amara stopped breathing. He saw her instantly, but his face revealed nothing. If anything, he became colder. He finished his remarks, then left without acknowledging her. For the rest of the day, Amara could not decide what was worse, him remembering everything or pretending nothing had happened. Office life at Bassey Global was not kind. Wealth has a way of building hierarchies inside hallways. Amara's modest clothes, quiet manner, and outsider status made her an easy target. The worst of them was Cynthia, a senior executive assistant who had once expected to rise by attaching herself to Kade's inner circle. Cynthia hated how Kade's eyes paused on Amara even when he said nothing. Another problem was Malik, a charming communications manager who flirted with Amara from the start and did not understand the word no. Amara tried to stay invisible, but invisibility becomes impossible once secrets begin to grow. She had been feeling weak for days, dizzy in elevators, sick in the mornings, tired by noon. A hospital visit confirmed what she feared. She was pregnant. Her first instinct was panic. Her second was anger. Not at the baby, but at the cruel timing. She considered telling Kade, but then she remembered his world, his ex-fiancé scandal, his pride, the difference in class, and the fact that nothing between them had been built to last. So she made a decision. She would keep the child, work quietly, save money, and raise the baby without begging a billionaire to believe her. But secrets do not stay buried in buildings full of cameras, assistants, gossip, and ambition. One afternoon, Amara nearly fainted in the archive room. Mama Kade happened to visit the office that same day and found her sitting on the floor trying to steady herself. The old woman did not miss much. She got Amara water, asked 3 careful questions, and quickly understood that something serious was happening. She also understood that Kade knew nothing. Mama Kade said something that changed the direction of the story. She said men like Kade learn power before tenderness, and sometimes God uses unexpected women to teach them what money cannot buy. That evening, without asking permission, Mama Kade invited Amara to the family estate under the excuse of reviewing scholarship programs. Kade arrived later, saw her there, and immediately knew his grandmother was orchestrating something. He was furious. Amara was embarrassed. Mama Kade was delighted. The confrontation that followed was electric. Kade demanded to know why Amara had not told him she was working in his company. Amara fired back that he did not own every room she entered. He asked if she came back for more money. She slapped him with the truth. Not every poor woman wants to trap a rich man. Some just want to survive what men like him casually survive with. Those words hit harder than any insult he had ever received. Later that night, Mama Kade collapsed briefly after a blood pressure scare. The family panicked. Amara, whose late mother had been a nurse, acted fast, stabilized her, gave clear instructions, and stayed calm while everyone else lost their heads. From that moment, Mama Kade made up her mind. If character had a face, it looked like Amara. The next morning, she called both of them and announced something outrageous. Since Kade's name was already tangled with Amara's, and the family needed peace while she recovered, Amara would move into the estate temporarily as a maternal health consultant for Mama Kade's outreach charity. It was not a marriage. It was not even an official engagement. But it placed Amara inside Kade's house, his routines, his line of sight, and eventually, his heart. Living together forced intimacy neither of them expected. Kade discovered she woke before sunrise to call Toby and remind him to take his medication. She discovered he donated anonymously to widows and school children because he hated public praise. He discovered she sang softly while organizing files. She discovered he had not trusted anyone since his father died and relatives tried to tear the business apart. Every day, the distance between them shrank. Then, everything got worse. Cynthia found Amara's prenatal vitamins in a restroom drawer and began spreading rumors that Amara was sleeping with a married executive. Malik, offended that Amara kept rejecting him, joined the gossip to damage her reputation. Soon, whispers followed Amara through corridors. Promotions came under question. Her professionalism was mocked, and because shame moves faster than truth, she became the office scandal. Kade overheard two directors discussing her like she was a disposable girl who had slept her way into relevance. Something inside him snapped. For the first time, he publicly defended her. He shut down the gossip, suspended 3 staff members, and ordered an internal investigation into workplace harassment. The whole company went silent. Amara was grateful, but also furious. She told him protecting her only when things got ugly did not erase the way he first judged her. Kade, for once, did not defend himself. He admitted he had been cruel. He admitted fear had taught him to assume the worst. And he admitted that every day he spent around her made it harder to pretend the night they shared was a mistake. Still, Amara did not tell him about the baby. The truth came out during a charity gala. Vanessa returned, so did Desmond. They had been quietly working with a rival investor who wanted to weaken Kade's company. At the gala, Vanessa cornered Amara in a private corridor and accused her of climbing into Kade's life the way she had climbed into his bed. Amara tried to walk away, but Vanessa grabbed her arm. In the struggle, Amara slipped on the polished floor and hit the edge of a marble bench. The room erupted. Kade carried her out himself and rushed her to the hospital. Doctors treated the fall and then asked a question that froze everyone in the room. Was the father of the baby on file the man waiting outside? That was how Kade found out. For several seconds he could not speak. Then he looked at Amara with something deeper than anger. It was hurt. Not because she was pregnant, because she had been carrying his child and believed he was the kind of man who did not deserve to know. Amara thought he would explode. Instead, he asked everyone else to leave. Then he sat beside her hospital bed and said the quietest thing he had ever said to her. "You were preparing to do this alone." That question broke her. She told him everything. The fear, the class difference, the way he had reduced her to a transaction. The way powerful men always assume poor women are strategists when sometimes they are simply scared. She told him she never wanted to use a child to secure a life. She would rather struggle than be pitied. Kade listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said he had spent years winning against enemies outside and losing against the emptiness inside. Then he made a promise. Not control, not ownership, responsibility. He would not force her, but he would not run. For the first time, Amara believed him. Just when it seemed things could finally heal, the biggest twist of all arrived. Mama Kade had long suspected that Desmond's late father had stolen more than money from the Bassey family years ago. While reviewing old outreach records, Amara found a faded photograph of her own mother standing near Kade's mother at a community clinic years before. On the back was a note about a missing child trafficking investigation that had been buried through bribery. The more they dug, the uglier it became. Desmond's family had once been involved in a scheme that moved vulnerable children through fake charity networks for profit. One of the girls who disappeared during that period was Amara's elder sister, Zina, a child Amara's mother had searched for until the day she died. Amara had grown up believing Zina was lost forever. Victor, Kade's trusted friend and private doctor, followed the trail to a luxury rehab facility outside Accra, where a woman named Celine was living under an altered identity funded by shell accounts connected to Desmond. When Amara finally saw the woman, her body knew before her mind did. Same eyes, same scar near the wrist, same lullaby half remembered from childhood. Celine was Zina. But Zina's return brought another wound. She had been manipulated for years into believing her family abandoned her. Desmond planned to use her existence as leverage over both Amara and Kade once the merger was finalized. It was monstrous, and it proved this was never just about romance. It was about power, class, stolen lives, and who gets to write the truth. The final showdown happened in Kade's boardroom. Desmond thought he still had enough dirt, enough legal tricks, and enough elite friends to escape. Vanessa thought public shame would drive Amara out. Cynthia thought powerful men always protect women like Vanessa over women like Amara. All three were wrong. Kade called an emergency board meeting. Investors attended. Family attended. Legal counsel attended. So did the press team, though nobody knew why. Then Kade played the evidence. Financial trails, facility records, voice notes, security footage, signed transfers, names, dates, victims, lies. Every mask came off at once. Desmond tried to deny it until Zina walked in. Vanessa tried to spin it until old messages proved she had been part of the blackmail strategy. Cynthia tried to cry until HR presented her harassment record. And Amara, the girl people once looked through like cheap glass, stood in the center of that room while everybody who mocked her learned what truth looks like when it stops apologizing. Police took Desmond away. Vanessa lost every social advantage she had built on manipulation. Cynthia was dismissed publicly. Malik, who had enabled rumors, resigned before termination reached him. For the first time, the rich and powerful people who treated poor women like background furniture had to face the fact that the background was watching, remembering, and surviving. After the storm, Kade found Amara alone on the terrace of the estate. Lagos glittered below them. The city that had taken so much from both of them now looked strangely gentle. He did not arrive with speeches or pride. He arrived with honesty. He told her she had changed the meaning of strength for him. Before her, strength was control, money, distance, and never bleeding where anyone could see. After her, strength looked like truth, apology, tenderness, and staying. Then he got on one knee, not because his family wanted it, not because a child was coming, and not because a scandal needed repair. He did it because for the first time in his life, he had found someone who saw the man beneath the empire and did not run. Amara cried before she answered. Not because she had finally become the chosen woman of a billionaire, but because after so much fear, humiliation, hunger, grief, and endurance, love had found her, without demanding she become smaller first. She said yes. Months later, The estate was transformed for a quiet wedding under warm lights and white flowers. Toby, healthier and smiling, walked Amara down the aisle. Zena stood beside her as maid of honor, still healing, but finally home. Mama Kade watched with tears she pretended not to have. And Kade, the man once described as colder than stone, looked at Amara like God had embarrassed his arrogance in the sweetest possible way. When their daughter was born, Kade held the baby with shaking hands and laughed at himself because the same man who once distrusted love now feared breathing too loudly near something so precious. Their son arrived minutes later, louder, stronger, and instantly adored by Mama Kade, who declared that no child of Amara's would ever know what it meant to fight alone. In the end, Amara did not just get the billionaire. She got her dignity back. She got her family back. She got her sister back. And most importantly, she got a life where her pain was no longer the price of survival. But if there is one lesson this story leaves behind, it is this: never mistake silence for weakness. Some women are quiet only because life taught them to save their energy for the moment truth finally needs a voice. And when that moment comes, the same people who underestimated them are the first to realize they were standing in the presence of something unbreakable. If you enjoyed this story, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments one thing. If you were Amara, would you have told Kade about the baby earlier, or kept the secret until the truth forced its way out?